Hello, welcome or welcome back. Today I'm very excited to be talking to you about Monstrilio by Gerardo Samano Cordova. Now, I did try to record this video yesterday, and I did fail. I had just finished this, and I just don't think I was in the correct headspace to be talking about it. It is actually just such a work of art. I think I needed a minute to process it. But I'm going to get into my summary, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts. And I have a lot of them, and I honestly think this is one of the best books I have ever read. So, this book opens with a very dramatic scene of a child dying. It's very sad, but his name is Santiago, his mom's name is Margos, the dad's name is Joseph. You're going to remember all these because they are very important to the overall story. So, she sees him dead, she gets really sad, and then she proceeds to cut out his lung, take his lung. The dad gets really angry. He's like, "You killed our son," or I think he says, "You destroyed him," or something. He's like, "You destroyed our son," and she's like, "Well, I'm taking the lung." After he dies, they scatter his ashes, right? And we learn that he loved a tree that they had on this new house. They moved from Mexico City to this house. They call it Ferguson. It's in upstate New York. And they moved there because they needed a new start, essentially, and his family is rich. So they brought Santiago with them, and they all moved out of Mexico City. And she was not a fan of it first, but Santiago loved this tree. Then we go back to the present after this backup thing, and we learned that they're getting in a lot of consistent fights. Basically, they're not having a great time. She's screaming at him. He's crying. She's getting in a lot of fights with him. She's breaking shit to make sure that she wants him to fight with her, but he's not gonna fight with her. She's like, "Okay, I'm done." And she gets up and she leaves and goes back to Mexico City. And he falls into this deep depression. We switch to her in Mexico City. She goes to the airport. She gets picked up by her friend named Lena. Lena is also very important. Lena's main thing is that she's a doctor and she is in love with Margos, down to loves Margos. Her and Lena go back to the house. We meet two other characters. This is Lucia and Jackie. Lucia is Margos's mother, and Jackie is kind of her partner, kind of her housemate. We're not really sure what's going on there. They got some weird stuff going on. They're kind of in love, kind of not really, maybe. Who knows? But she gets back home, and her mom's pissed off. Her mom's like, "Okay, Margos, but you never told me. I had to find out via Lena that my grandchild died." And Margos is like, "Girl," and we get the first kind of show of their power dynamic. Lucia basically tells her to go upstairs. And Margos, we can assume, is around the ages of 30-ish. And she tells her, she's like, "Go upstairs to your room." And they get in a little bit of an argument, but Margos does go upstairs to her room. When she goes upstairs, she's unpacking everything, and she unpacks this lung, and Jackie comes in to help her, presumably get her stuff, and Jackie sees the lung and she doesn't say anything. She's pretty normal about it. She's like, "Oh, I like it." She's like, "It's the same as keeping teeth or hair." And then she tells her the story about her cousin who took a heart, I believe, from a little girl and grew it into a man that she loved. However, because of their love, the town killed them all. Because it was not having their love story. I don't know. Anyway, she tells her not to do it though, because whatever comes out of what you feed it is going to be worse. And also, this is not a criticism of the book at all, but I just think it's so funny that Jackie is telling her to do this and being like, "Oh, but don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do that." Margos wakes up from a bad dream at night, and she goes to her kitchen and she sees this bone broth. She gets it, she pours it into the lung, and she wakes up the next morning and it's all gone. The lung has consumed this bone broth. And I absolutely just love that. I love a book that is showing you how weird it is at the beginning of the book. It's just such a great tone for the rest of it. She wakes up the next morning and goes downstairs. Her mother basically tells her, she's like, "Girl, we're having this mass. You can either come or not, but we're doing a mass for him." And she's like, "Call Joseph and tell him to come." So she gets on the phone, she calls Joseph, and Joseph's like, "Girl, why'd you mangle our son?" And she's like, "Because because he's already dead." And then she hangs up, and the mass happens, and Joseph does not come. Afterwards, they have a side party, and Margos is just kind of up in her room, not in a room, but kind of in a hallway, and she's just kind of sitting there, and Lena comes in. Lena does not go to the mass. Lena does not do masses. So she comes in, she goes upstairs and kind of comforts her, and this is where we get the first hint of oh, this is not giving straight, is it? So, basically what happens is she goes up there and they're holding hands, And you kind of get a view into the relationship, how when they were, like, they've been friends for a long time, and how they've, like, Lena's always loved Margos, and Margos has kind of liked her, but not sexually. She finds her, like, attractive, but she's not, like, sexually attracted to her, which I think is such an interesting dynamic between them, because it's not like Margos is opposed to being in a relationship with her, she's just not sexually attracted to her. Like, they don't have any physical chemistry. And I find that so interesting in a book that is just so, like, so visceral. Like, it's just Gerardo Samano Cordova actually ate with these relationships. Like, so hard, like, the plate is literally gone. Like, they're so interconnected so well. Like, it feels so human. Also, the dialogue in this book, actually amazing. What happens next is they hear a knock in the closet. The Long is in the closet. And Lena doesn't realize what it is. Margos tries to convince her it's a rat. She takes it in the room. She gets bit. And then Lena makes her go and get a rabies shot. And Margos becomes absolutely obsessed with the Long at this point. Nothing else matters to her except for this Long. She is not leaving the house. She is barely eating. And then, because of how much the Long sleeps, she literally is just, like, finding hobbies. She's reading, she's, like, knitting, she's doing all this other crap to occupy her time while she's trying to feed this Long, essentially. Like, this is the only thing she cares about in the world. Jackie keeps trying to clean Margos' room and she won't let her. And then over in Lucia's world, Lucia is having trouble paying the gardener. And Margos offers to pay because Joseph has got a shit ton of money. And she, like, gets angry. She's like, I don't want to have to, like, rely on my kids essentially for money. Like, I've got this. This is our family home. Like, nothing matters more to me than this house. Be one of my favorite characters in this book. Probably my second favorite, next to someone that we haven't met yet. And she goes to sleep after this, like, whole family debacle. She just screams, it's the dog Alamandra. And she is getting, like, the Long at this point has developed teeth in a face, and it is literally, like, sucking her blood, essentially. The Long also has an arm tail, and it, like, has hooks in it, and it is, like, trying to eat the dog. And Jackie's hitting it, and she pries the Long off of it, and Jackie basically tells her, either you tell your mom, or I'm gonna tell her about whatever the hell you got going on there. And then the next day, they're kind of sitting there reading. It's her and her mom basically tells her, she's like, you need to do something because I'm going to have to kick you out at some point. And then they have a conversation, which I honestly think is one of the best conversations in this entire book. And she asks her, she's like, why aren't you and Jackie together? And she's like, well, I feel like Jackie's more of a companion rather than a lover. Also, even outside of seeing Jackie as a friend, she also said if she was younger, she would go after Jackie. And what happens next is that Margos tries to pay someone to fix the house. It doesn't work. Lucia gets really mad, ends up doing it herself. Then she calls Joseph and she's like, hey, if you want information on your son, you should come to Mexico City. Basically, like, tempting him to come to, like, see them, essentially. And he does. He shows up. When Joseph shows up, she shows him the Long, and he freaks out. And then they are, like, talking. The Long leaves. It goes and latches on Lucia. Very dramatic scene. This book is so good at doing, like, tension in such, like, a intense way. So many things happening at once, and it can combine them all at once to make a dreadful, terrifying scene, and it really is so good at building a tension. Anyway, so they get her off. They essentially take a hammer and beat the Long. Well, I'm pretty sure Lena beats the Long. And Margos freaks out. She takes the monster, she goes and puts it in a bush, and runs away into the night. From here, we switch perspectives. After we switch to Lena's perspective, she goes and finds Margos. She brings her to her house. And then we get a little bit of Lena's backstory. She pays people to bathe her. It's like her form of release almost. And she has really bad insomnia, and it's the only way she can sleep. And because of Margos being in her house, she is not able to have these people come over, and she's really struggling with sleeping because of that. And Lena is really struggling with Margos. Margos is in this deep depression. Like, she won't get off the couch. She's having a lot of issues. And Lena still has to go to work. So she calls Jackie to come over, and Jackie does. And when she gets back, after Jackie's coming over, she's all of a sudden chipper, she's clean, the house is nice, she's wiping down tables, she's made food for them. And Lena gets really confused, and then she tells Lena that they saw, I'm just gonna say his name because I'm so tired of, like, referring to him as the Long or whatever. They saw Monstrilio. She tells him that they saw Monstrilio at the park. And then after this, what happens is they all go looking for it. They find it in a park. A lot happens. It's standing on a tree. And basically what happens is that Lena risks her life. She falls down a cliff and almost dies. And everyone saves her, but Margos really just never gave a fuck. She gets her like, baby essentially back. And she's like, okay, time to move on. Then what happens is they go home. And Margot tells Jackie that she doesn't have to stay, she doesn't have to care, it doesn't really matter, she can go. And then she tells Lena that she's going to keep Monstrilio with them. And that he's just going to have to, like, she's going to have to deal with it. And she kind of gets angry at first, but then just lets it happen. And because he's living with them, she almost becomes attached. They become a pseudo family, essentially. They are just living like wife and wife, child. Like, they become this family unit during this time, and I honestly loved this section of the book. I thought it was so well done in the way that it shows what would a relationship between them look like. What would that look like? And we get such an in-depth look of it that I really enjoyed this section of the book. During this time, she gives it the name Monstrilio, which I already said, which I'll be referring to him as like the most of the rest of the book, hence the title Monstrilio. And after this pseudo family, you'll never guess what happens. Joseph shows up. Now, I like Joseph. I think he's fine. I like him better in the book. But when he showed up, the way I was so pissed off, the way I was like, okay, get out of here. I don't need you here. We don't need you in this little family unit. But anyways, Joseph shows up, and basically Margot starts like convincing him to become this family with her. She's like, please, like, let's be a family. And he kind of starts agreeing. Like, it kind of starts working on him after a minute of Monstrilio. And then what really gets him is when Monstrilio calls him Poppy, and he's like, oh. So then it's like all out. Like, they're now a family. They have now become a family. They have a house La Roma. And Lena has been paying for it to be taken care of, the plants and stuff, and it's essentially move-in ready. So she goes and gets it ready, and they move in. It's Joseph, Monstrilio, and Lena. Girl Margos. See, this is how bad I wanted them to be a family. You can even hear it in the way I'm retelling it. Okay, anyway. So, they move in. And what happens is that Monstrilio is growing. He's growing a lot. So, they build him a cage outside. A cage is a strong word. They build him like a playpen. It's pretty big. It's probably like the size of my room. And he's like playing all around in it. He's having a great time. During this, Margos makes a studio to start doing her art, which she was talking to her mom about when, she was trying to kick her out or whatever. And the problem is, Lena kind of loses her shit during this period. She's paying people to bathe her. She still can't sleep. She's having a lot of issues because the life that she almost wanted, that she should have had, got taken from her. So, obviously, she's having a rough time. And I'm going to get a little bit deeper into Lena's kind of lore. So, she had a woman who bathed her originally. This woman was her favorite. She was everything to her, and she was the greatest. And she, like, genuinely just, like, loved her. Also, all of these women who are bathing her are sex workers, but she just pays them to bathe her. She had a lady after that who was fine, and then a lady after that who was okay. And then the rest of the women who she has had are not able to bathe her the way she wants to be bathed. She wants very more sensual than anything. And because of what's going on, instead of these women bathing her, she started having sex with them, rather than just letting them bathe her. It's very interesting to see the trajectory that she goes on, wanting to be bathed and then actually having sex with these women. And I find it's really like a great show of her breakdown throughout the time. Lena's ability to clean her house and all that stuff kind of starts breaking down as well, and that is something she's very specific about. She doesn't like change, and that's like her main character arc. One night, Lena is supposed to feed Monstrilio. She doesn't. She gets out of surgery really late, and she goes home and she goes to sleep. And Monstrilio eats a bunch of animals: cats, dogs, rats, cats. I already said cats, but it's okay, it's cats too. And she goes the day after, and she's like, oh shit, he ate like everything. And she starts cleaning up. Joseph comes in. Joseph kind of freaks out because he's like, Joseph has this very big dream that Monstrilio is going to be Santiago. He says that he sees him as different. The book and just overall character arc shows that he really doesn't, but he wants to believe that he does. He wants Monstrilio to be a normal human being without any of his like Monstrilio vibes. And he's not, obviously. And it really hurts Joseph. Hurts is a strong word. It really it breaks him down mentally whenever he sees Monstrilio acting like an animal or like a monster. Joseph, Lena, and Margos have a dinner. And Joseph's arm is messed up. And because Lena's a doctor, she stitches him up. And then they're all kind of getting a little drunk. And they look at her and they ask her to remove Monstrilio's arm tail. And she's like, girl, how the hell do you expect me to do that? We don't even know the anatomy. So they kind of devise a plan. They're going to get him an MRI, and then they're going to decide what they're going to do. And the whole reason Margos wants to remove the arm tail is because she sees him more human if the arm tail is removed. They test an anesthetic. They give it to him. He kind of stops breathing, but then he gets back up. And so they kind of realize that threshold's closed. And then they get an MRI, and they realize there's no organs, bones, tissues in where his arm tail is. So they kind of cover that hurdle. And this is done very skillfully in the way that it builds up to where she's eventually going to have to remove his arm tail because there's no more blockers to show that she can't. She does. She removes his arm tail, and Monstrilio gets hella depressed. He is like having a lot of issues. Obviously having a piece of your body removed is extremely traumatizing, and Monstrilio is feeling the effects of these very heavily. What happens now is he's very depressed. He's having a lot of issues, so Joseph and Lena decide to kill him. They try. Margos gets really angry. She stops them, and then Joseph and Lena move to New York City. And our next perspective is Joseph in New York City, which was by far, I think, my favorite perspective. I found his just so interesting. Okay, so what happens now is it's about to be a big time jump. I'm going to tell you a lot of information. It's all pretty important. So we get to New York City. Joseph is with a man now. His name is Peter. Peter and him are newly engaged. Joseph is not sure how he feels about it. Monstrilio is basically a full boy now. Most people refer to him as M, which is probably what I'll call him for the rest of the book. And he is living in Berlin with Margos. Margos has become a big-time performance artist, and she is doing all kinds of performances there. Monstrilio regularly visits Uncle Luke, and Uncle Luke is the same man who pulled Joseph out of his depression. And Uncle Luke, when I tell you, is the absolute best character in this book, hands down, no comparison. When I said earlier that Lucia was my second favorite, it's because Uncle Luke is the first. Uncle Luke is the pinnacle of character. Here, it's just kind of a lot of life stuff, so Joseph does not really love Peter, but he's trying to convince himself that he does. M is now working at an art gallery. He's a teenager now, and he has a crush on his boss. His boss' name is Thomas. His mom, Margos, is trying to set him up with a neighbor. What else happens is that Thomas and M have sex, and he bites Thomas. Thomas gets a little scared, but he doesn't really do anything. He doesn't eat him, and Thomas basically makes him to promise not to do it again. And then also, this is just kind of what's going on. Peter is kind of boring. Peter has no, grit to him. He's not, interesting. Lena, Joseph, Margos, M, they all have this, grit to them. They all are very, very deep characters, and they have a lot of, just a lot of stuff going on. And I'm not saying Peter's not well-developed. I think Peter is well-developed. But he is a very, very flowery person in the ways that he's scared of a lot of things. Versus Margos, Lena, and Joseph and M have been through some shit. So he is kind of struggling with the lifestyle of Joseph, and Joseph has not told him anything. And so Margos announces a new show. This show is called Sun, and they all meet at a restaurant. Peter, M, Thomas, Joseph, Lena, Margos. And since they're all at this restaurant, Peter announces their engagement, and it does not go well. It is a very awkward, clunky engagement. Joseph had not told anyone up to this point, about his engagement, because no one really, was into the thought of him getting engaged. Also, no one really thinks he loves Peter because he doesn't. So they all go on a tour of the city. Peter's trying to bond with M. M and Thomas are now dating. They're really close. Peter's just really awkward inside of their family. Again, I just don't think he has the grit required. And so that's all kind of happens. It's real awkward. Then we go to the show. The show is Margos holding Santiago's, their dead sons, that she cut the lung out of, pajamas, and she's crying on stage. That's the performance art. This is all happening. M walks out of the theater. And we have been hearing up to this point his thoughts of really, just not feeling super attached to the world that he's living in. And then they kind of forget about him. No one is able to find him. And Lena, Margos, and Joseph go to a bar, and they get real fucked. And they go back home, and they see the neighbor's house. She knocks on the door. Monstrilio ate the neighbor. He's not fully dead, but he ate the neighbor. And so he's sitting in the pool of blood, naked, and clearly they were, having sex. And in the book, they're asking, they're like, what are they doing? Obviously, you know what they were doing. Joseph and M go to the apartment. They get ready. They clean the clothes. They clean the sheets. They leave. And they're out after the ambulance leaves. They call an ambulance because there's really, nothing else they can do. And they take Elias, is his name, and they all go to the hospital. So what happens is that they go back to Peter and Joseph's hotel. And when they get back there, Peter's like, what the hell are y'all doing here? And he's like, Monstrilio's coming home with us, or M. They go back to New York, and when they get there, Uncle Luke is waiting for them. Uncle Luke loves Monstrilio. We love Uncle Luke. And Uncle Luke does not like Peter. I don't know how I feel about Peter. He's just kind of like, he's there. I forgot to mention that Uncle Luke is nonverbal. He cannot speak. So he writes and he grunts. And his grunts, his grunts is like some of the most skilled writing I think I've ever seen. It is like actually great the way that Gerardo Samano Cordova writes these. Oh my god. Never got like such a great display of just sound in general. Once we get out of here, right, we switch to the final perspective, which is M's perspective. And I absolutely love that. I absolutely love that he has perspective in the book. So they go to Luke's house, and Peter and Joseph have been getting in a lot of fights over him not telling him what's really going on, because how do you explain that? And Peter leaves, and Joseph's just kind of living with them. They're all just kind of literally just living. They're making stuff, they're reading. But Joseph is like really like antsy, so he and Peter figure their stuff out. He goes back to live with Peter. M gets a job at a bookstore. He meets this girl named Rami. Rami is actually great. She's definitely in my top 5 characters. I think she's so funny. She gets him on dating apps. They go to a party. He goes on a few dates with people. Again, it's just a lot of montage living stuff. But however, it is still so interesting. Like, I was never bored reading this. From this, he wants to bite people. So he goes on a date with this guy and he bites him. This guy beats him, like really, really bad. But he consented to be bitten. He was just beating the shit out of Monstrilio or M for no reason. And so Emily's being pretty beat up, and he almost eats him, by the way. But he gets hit with a metal bat by that guy and leaves. Also, this guy is very, like, finance bro, like, he has that vibe. Anyway, so he goes home. It's a whole thing of him recovering, and he goes through a lot in this recovery. He is covered in bruises, and everyone comes to see him. He gets a few stitches, I want to say. They decide to have the wedding at Ferguson, the manor from the beginning of the story. Margos wants to go to a Spanish festival because she feels like she has no place in New York. And she ends up leaving. But when she leaves, M goes to Uncle Luke's house, who again is literally the best character in this book. And I don't know how to like describe him really well, like to really show how good of a character he is. I honestly think you have to read it to truly understand. But he gets him a whole half of a car, or a whole half of a car. He gets him a whole half of a cow, and he eats the whole cow. In this, we get one of the best things I think in this book. His stump really starts hurting, and he keeps getting smaller. So, what happens is he goes back to Sam's house, because Sam texts him, and Sam asks him to eat him. He has, like, started this weird cult around M, and he eats him, and he stops, but then he eats all of Sam. Sam is gone. They have a dinner a few days later, and Peter brings up Sam's murder, and they're like, oh god. Also, I forgot to mention during this, Monstrilio or M, I keep calling him both, but he kind of has these weird memories about Santiago. Memories that he kind of has from Santiago, and memories that he also gets told. It's very interesting. Also, a lot of M's section in this book is addressed directly to Santiago. And I think, obviously, that's meant to show, like, the comparison of having a piece of someone but not the whole. Peter goes home. They're all at dinner. They send Peter back to wherever they're living, and they start cleaning it up. They take the bloody sheets that he had, they wash them, they cut them up, they put them in a bag. They take the phone, they smash it, they take the chip out, they rip that up. Monstrilio eats, or M eats it, I keep calling him Monstrilio. He eats it, and they all take this trash to go throw it away. They almost get caught, they don't. They throw it in the harbor, and then we switch to the wedding. They're all going to Ferguson for the wedding. Everything is set up for the day after, and they all get there, and what ends up happening is that M and Margos and Joseph are sleeping in the couch together, and Monstrilio, or M, is really struggling with his, like, identity, and he goes to Lena first, and he shows her his arm tail or whatever, and she's like, are you leaving? And he's like, yeah, I think so. And she gives him a hug, and she's like, I love you, blah, blah, blah. Then he goes to Uncle Luke next, who is honestly still the best character in this book. Hands down, no one compares to Uncle Luke. And he goes and tells him, and he tells everyone slowly in the house, except for Peter, because no one cares about Peter. And then the end of the book, might I say, such a full circle moment, such a great just display of writing quality. He gets up, he takes off his clothes, he leaves them by the tree, and he walks away as everyone watches him walk away. Absolutely perfect for this book. Like, oh my god, such a perfect ending for such a perfect book. Now I'm gonna get to the things I like about this book. First things first, I love the way that even in the grief that Margos and Joseph experience, Joseph can't truly understand the experience that Margos is having in a lot of ways due to her like physical connection to Santiago. I think that is so interesting in the way that the book touches on it. It's not super deep in the way that it talks about it. Like, it doesn't dive super deep, but it is there. And I thought that was such a great display, not to invalidate fatherhood, but to show the way in which a physical connection adds to a connection between two human beings. Another thing I really love, the main meat and potatoes of this book is the touching. The main meat and potatoes of this book is the grief. The experiences of grief in this book. I think it does it very well. When it comes to deaths of characters in this book, it is so intent and so well done. People feel the ripples of the death, and if it doesn't even show up directly right away, it comes later. It's such a great display of the way that death and grief occurs and how it never truly leaves you. I thought this book was so great at showing grief in every way. It never failed to impress me with the way that it displayed grief. Honestly, such an amazing display of writing quality in general. Like, after this book, I will read anything that he writes. Like, just, I am so utterly impressed. Also, I think this book is very good at showing the themes of how do I decide when I have to basically leave to save myself. There's a lot of times in this book when certain characters will fall deep into depression or things like that, and another character has to decide how long they have to stay there before they are also going to allow themselves to get pulled into that. And it is consistently brought up, and I think it is such like a great just addition to grief and how you keep someone that's still alive. I also love the ways that home is showed in this. This book takes place over multiple places: Berlin, Mexico City, New York. And the way that home is more of almost a chosen place rather than something that is a physical being. It is where you are, where your family is, rather than, and family as in chosen too, rather than a place that is cemented in stone. I also love the tenderness that these characters display for each other in so many ways. They are constantly just waiting. It is such a great display of real human connection and the ways in which a lot of people's love is conditional, but the conditions on which it would have to end are so far that it doesn't matter. Like, for example, in the beginning of the book with the jar, if you read or watched, you'll know what I'm talking about. It is the way that Jackie responds is so just telling of how she sees her and how she feels, and then just in so many other ways, just the tenderness in every single aspect of this book. The understanding between characters, especially towards the last perspective, is just so genuine. The display of queer characters in this book was actually so refreshing and such a nice glass of water way. Like, this book never felt the need to be like, look, they're gay, I'm doing representation, like a lot of books do. Like, honestly, that's kind of how I felt reading We Love You, Bunny. But this book was so just great, and the way that it was so relaxed and just didn't make queer characters feel like the exemption in a book. It was so consistent and nice, and I never felt like this book was trying to be like, look, there's a gay person in the book, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was always just so great. Such a refreshing display of queerness. I love the way names are used in this book. Names are such a fundamental theme in this book throughout the entire thing, and they're done very well. Names are so used to attach certain people, even if it is technically the same person, to separate different sections of your life. I absolutely love that. I thought it was great. I don't think I've read a book that has used names. I probably read them similarly, but not in the same way that this book has used names, and I actually think that was so just well written, just well done. This book is just so well done. Furthermore, I think this book does a great job of displaying the ideas of family, and specifically chosen family. The family that is in this book, the very specific cast of fundamental characters, of which Uncle Luke is still the best, are just such a great display of that. They're not all related. They're not all connected by blood. And some of them aren't even friends, but they're still there for each other no matter what. And I think that is the most family thing. I think this, next to Of Mice and Men, is my favorite display of chosen family. It is just done so well in both stories, and I just absolutely love it. I just absolutely love it. Oh, my battery's gonna die. I'll be back in a second. Okay, hello, I'm back. I know you're impressed. I got batteries, so now I don't have to wait like 3 hours in between when my battery dies. The budget is up over here. So on the family topic, I love the way that it displays that what family is changing constantly, even inside of a chosen family. What it means to you is always changing. I just think this book is it's just so good. Like, this is probably one of the best things. I know I've said that, but there's just so many best things about it. It is so good at giving you this sense of peace. Like, it'll give you, like, oh, things are getting better, it's looking up, and then something bad happens. Oh, things are getting better, looking up, something bad happens. But it's not in a way that is, like, super duper predictable. Like, you have an idea of when something's gonna happen, but you don't know exactly when. And I just love that. I just love this book, I think. I love the way this book is so able to ground characters specifically to their actions based on who they are. I understand why every character takes the actions they take, and this is specifically for only the people who have read this book. But there is a section in this book where it talks about Lena in a chair, and it is, I think, such a great display of who she is, and grounds every action that she takes after that. And I want to talk about one very specific part of this book that I absolutely loved. And again, either I don't know if I bring this up, I don't think I actually do, but if you've read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about. And that is, when you do read this book, I need to know how we felt about this, because there's a section where Lena brings up a drawing that Santi did, and the way that I was gagged, the way that I looked at my book and I said, oh my god, absolutely love that, so good. Probably, honestly, I think the best point of tension in this entire book. I also love in this book the way that characters are able to leave. It doesn't hold everyone down to one situation using, like, baseless stuff like, oh, I can't quit, or things like that. It's always letting characters leave and move to wherever they want, and the story continues even in different places. It feels so free-flowing in a way that doesn't feel forced. So, my favorite perspective, right? My favorite perspective was Joseph's, and I honestly think that's because of the way that it is displayed. I can't say too much, but the book displays exhaustion through him so well, and that was my favorite section of the entire book. I think the exhaustion that he feels is just so visceral, and you can feel it so well. I just love that part. I just loved his section. I don't know how long each section is. I would assume that there's 4, probably about 70, 80 pages, and they're all amazing. They're all great, but I just think Joseph's is the best. I also want to talk about, at times, this book can be so heartwarming. There is so many sections in this book. For example, when they fix the porch, it's so heartwarming. Like, there is so many times in this book when I'm reading it, and I just felt like this is such, like, a great, like, family book. Like, it at times just made me feel so good, and then other times it's absolutely horrifying. But the juxtaposition between those doesn't feel super vast. It's done in a way that it's so bridged that I don't ever feel scared of the difference between it, if that makes sense. Like, I've never felt thrown into cold water whenever it comes to changing the tone of the book. Just baseline good things also. This book has some of the best developed characters. I know I've already said this, but it's just, I have to reiterate it just to really display it. Just some of the best developed characters I have ever seen. Like, genuinely developed so well and so just grounded in their actions. I know I already said that too, but it's just such a point of, like, such a great point of this book. I also love the display of families, and specifically these characters coming together in a crisis, and you can see all of their individual motivations and who they are as people merging together to solve one problem. Just genuinely such a human book. Like, such a human display of everything. I honestly don't think I've read a book more human experience than this is. I think if you were ever looking for a book on just how it feels to be human, this is that book. This is everything for that. Talk about the full circle moments in this book. This book is great at a full circle moment. It brings them up so consistently. They're so well done. I never feel like this book is forcing me to go back to a certain place to have a full circle moment. They are so seamless. I just want to talk about a little bit more about just the general book, like outside of like the actual story. So first things first, outside of the general story, I'm about to talk about the story. I trust this book. Genuinely, there was never a moment in this book where I was scared that it was going to end bad. I know we have all read a book where you're reading it and you're like, well, who knows? Never felt that way. I always knew that it was going to end well, no matter like what happened. I was always like 100% sure that it was going to be a good ending. Even if it wasn't a good ending, I knew it was going to be the ending I wanted. When I was writing my notes on this book, I forgot to make notes. Usually I try to make notes about every 10-ish pages. 10 to 20 pages usually what I go for, depending on how long the book is. And how good it is, because if not a lot's happening, I'm not making like many notes. But this book, I would genuinely read like 40, 30 pages, and I would like forget. Like I would be like, oh, and then I would realize that I need to be writing notes, and I would sit there for like 10 minutes writing everything that happened, because I was so immersed that I just didn't even like, I didn't even want to break my immersion any little bit. Also, I was very happy with the way I read this book. I did not read this like very fast. I'm sure, as my upload schedule will tell you, it took me a long time to read this. Um and I'm very happy that I did take the time to read this, because I felt very living with and in the characters. I didn't feel like I was rushing to tear through it. I felt very fulfilled when it ended. Very like full circle. Like, I just think the way I read it was just, there was no better way for me to personally read this, and I just absolutely love that. Also, in this book, another thing I really enjoyed, on the back of it, there's a group reading guide. Well, not in the back, in the back, there's a group reading guide for like book clubs and schools and stuff. Like, it's gonna be a classic. I already know this book is going to be a Penguin classic in like 150 years. Like, it's genuinely just such a great book. Like, and the first thing on the cover is a modern Frankenstein, and I couldn't agree more. Like, genuinely just amazing. And then my final statement on this book, I wrap this video up, is Uncle Luke's the best character. There is no better character. And my media comparison. For my media comparison, I don't really have a movie or a show, but for music, I would say Humans by Gorillaz and The Great Impersonator by Halsey. Now, that is going to be it for me. I absolutely love this book. 5 stars. Absolute perfect book. Definitely my number 2 favorite book now. And like, subscribe and stuff. Okay, bye.